Welcome this evening. We don't have the microphone system that we normally have, so whoever's speaking would appreciate if you come up here, because this microphone goes to our recording device that's recording this session. So we'll speak loudly. Hopefully you can hear me in the back. Is that okay? Very good. Bunch of deaf people back there. We'd like to begin this evening by an invocation, and then following the invocation would be our Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be offered by Lee Elliott, and our pledge by Nate. Thank you, Nate, for saying your last name. Cerniglia. Cernelia. Would you all stand, please?
Father God, we've come together this evening to discuss our country, discuss our politics that we deal with on a daily basis. The decisions that we make tonight, Father God, we hope are guided by your hand, that we're not out for anything but your glory. This country is based upon what we know about you and your love for us. So we ask that you give us the strength to make the right decisions tonight, and for our politicians to make the right decisions for us that are serving for us. Father God, thank you for loving us unconditionally. In everything that we do, we know that you love us. Say these things in your glorious name. Amen and amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. On the back of your agenda is the minutes for our May 24th meeting. Oh, it's on a separate page. So please browse through there. I'll give you a couple of minutes to see if there's any corrections or amendments, and we'll be voting to accept the minutes. We'd like to recognize our elected officials and those running for office. Trying to figure out how to turn that off. I'd like to recognize Dennis Johnson in the back.
I would also like to recognize and thank Morris White because immediately after the primary was over, he called and offered his support to me. It means a lot, so thank you, Morris.
That brings up an issue. Normally after the primary, there's a Democrat and a Republican, and then, of course, as a central committee, we get behind the Republican Party as a Republican candidate. In Ward 2, where Dennis is running, we have 2 Republican candidates, so we're assured of getting one of them elected after the general election. So in Ward 2, we're not going to come out as a committee and endorse either candidate, but as individuals, we would like to make our voice known and express who. We're not limited, so we can express who we would like as a candidate, as an individual. There you have it. Dave Cook up here in the front row.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back. It's good to be home. And thank you very much for all of your support. My race is clear. I'm up against a serious Democratic operative out of Washoe County. And now, after all the votes are tallied and we know who is moving on and who the likely appointees will be as well to a new structured State Board of Education, my race will be the swing vote race. If I win, we tend to have a 4-3 majority of conservatives or Republicans on the board. If I lose, it tends to be a 4-3 Democrats. The board works for reform depending on whether or not I win. It's an odd situation to be in. So I appreciate your assistance very much. And from some of you, many of you, I'll be asking for more assistance. I was outspent by 5 to 1 by each one of my opposing candidates. Well, 3 of the 4. And I drained the funds. So I'm looking for some fundraising assistance. I only have 56,000 square miles and 2/3 of a million people to reach. For those of you that don't understand, it's a congressional district. Me and Mark, I get to write on the road with Mark Amity. Mark's offered to take me up to Elko today. That's the district that I have. And I have really, that's why if you got a lot of phone calls from me, what can I say? Thank you for your acceptance and tolerance.
There you go.
Thank you.
We got Jim Shirk back here. Just to stand up and say, let it recognize us.
I'm just going to go forward and say, my name is Jim Shirk. I'm the only Republican in Ward 4. So there is
Thank
a
God.
clear distinction there. We don't have to worry about who to endorse, I'm hoping. First off, I want to say thank you to a number of people and for your support and for your votes. My good friend Aaron here, and where's Carol, worked feverishly for me. Thank you. And a lot of people in the room. Just thank you for your votes. And I will be having get-togethers at my house, fireside, campfire meetings starting after 4th of July. We'll be starting on the 9th. We'll have it Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 7. We've got a great backyard, vegetable garden, flowers. You're going to love it. We're going to have everything there for you. So we look forward to you coming to my house. You can meet my family, and then we can move on from there. So we're looking forward to that. Again, thank you very much. Again, the only Republican in Ward.
Ron Connect, behind him there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to be brief. First of all, I want to recognize my friend Ray Maseko. Welcome back, Ray. It's great to see you. Thanks for all this. Second, like Dave and like Jim, I'm nominally in a nonpartisan race, but I am, I guarantee you, the only Republican in the race. In fact, I'm the only real limited government conservative on the board. I'm the only person on the board who would claim to be one. So it's not quite the balance that Dave has where he's the swing vote. I'm the toehold of sanity on the board.
That's true, too. It is.
And above all, I want to thank you all for what you do on a continuing basis. You're the heart and soul of the party. We saw today why it is you need to be working, we need to be working, we need to be doing everything we can. That abomination of a court decision just makes me sick. It needs to energize all of us. I think my election's important, but I would give it up in a heartbeat if that's the price of electing Mitt Romney, Dean Heller, and the rest of the Republican ticket. That's the most important thing. So yes, I need large quantities of unmarked small bills from you all. Gold bullion will not be refused. We will be having a meet and greet, a barbecue at Alicia Idell's house in August, I believe, September. You'll get notice on that. And again, thank you for your support. Carson and Douglas and Lyon really put me over. I actually lost in Burke County out there in Churchill, but you all put me over. I was really grateful, and let's go get them. From here on out, it's time to retake back our country.
Thank you. We've got a nuclear guru here. Dennis Motes would like to say something.
Some of you may or may not remember it, but my first visit to this committee, and I've been hooked ever since, was to give a presentation on nuclear power. Microphone. Oh, I did the microphone. Sorry.
It won't help us, but
Well, the
it'll help.
other ones didn't speak into the microphone.
Yeah.
Oh, my wife complains I always speak too loudly, so that's not an issue. Anyway, my first presentation was about 1.5 years ago on nuclear power to this group, and like I said, I got roped in. I've come ever since. I don't like the communists in the White House any more than anybody else here does. But I have a lot of contacts in the nuclear world, being a nuclear physicist. And I even taught nuclear physics one semester at UNR as a guest instructor. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is that on July 10th, which is a week from this coming Tuesday, in Reno we meet at the King Buffet. The U.S. Nuclear Energy Foundation is going to be, we meet basically every month. I'm the organizer of the meetings, but this is kind of a weird one for me because when I was in Berkeley a few weeks ago, I found out that an acquaintance of mine from Australia had just come to Berkeley to make a presentation, and I contacted him and asked him, does he have anything? Well, not only that, he sent me a marvelous 80-slide presentation with a lot of beautiful photographs of Australia. It's nuclear power in the world, and with an emphasis on Australia, which has no nuclear reactors at all. They've been fighting since 1965 to get nuclear reactors. And so I'm going to be making his presentation with his approval. And if you have any time, a week on July 10th, 7 p.m. at the King Buffet in Reno, you're welcome to come. And, oh, by the way, you may purchase a dinner, but you don't have to. You can just come and listen to the presentation.
Thank you. It's now time to vote on our minutes. Are there any corrections that are noted? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes as written, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Treasurer's report and Nunemaker.
Since I wasn't here last month, we didn't get around to passing the hat last time. Oh. So I'd really appreciate it if you folks would maybe double up on that. Now we have a fair amount of money in the treasury, but as all of the candidates have said, we're going to be needing that money to help support our candidates and help the volunteers that are going to be working and doing that. So we'd really appreciate whatever you can donate to the cause here.
Thank you. Janice will report on the Carson City Republican Women.
With all the other meet and greets and everything else that's going on, the Republican women are having a Freedom Fest on July 17th. That's Tuesday. It's our normal luncheon meeting, but we're going to do it in the evening at Glen Eagles as a barbecue from 4 to 7:30. The candidates will be there, and you'll be able to just meet and greet with them, and it'll just be a nice, good time to come and cheer each other up and strengthen us as a country. Sometimes we just need somebody else to, besides our spouses or besides the dog, to get angry with. So it's a time to share with one another.
What's the date on that, Jan?
July 17th at Glen Eagles, 4 to 7:30, and there is a cost of $20 for the barbecue. Our Republican women have put together a cookbook. It's got all recipes from all the Republican women, a few other people. I think there's a couple of recipes from Mitt Romney's grandmother in here, and a few things like that. So it's going to be a fun one. And keepsake, hopefully for all of you that are Republicans, that these are Republican well-tested recipes. And they're $14. It's the Republican Women's Fundraiser this year. We've got 3 here. We'll have them here all the rest of the time if you'd like to purchase them now or any of the other events that are coming up. And then, just so you know, this is not a Republican women thing. It's a barbecue, a chili cook-off at Glen Eagles on July 7th and 8th. So kind of a 4th of July weekend thing if you want to come and participate in that. It's at 11 o'clock in the morning, chili cook-off at Glen Eagles. And
bring your own chili recipes?
bring your own chili. So, and this is not Republican women, but if you didn't get a flyer for this seminar this Saturday with Lauren Spivak at Glen Eagles, you can tell Kim Fegan's a Republican, can't you? And we're grateful for the support she gives to the Republican Party through Glen Eagles. But we're doing this seminar there. He's going to be teaching us how to look at Dave Cook and say, is he an economic supporter of us? I love him. So it helps us recognize those candidates that would support an economic American base. So come and learn. This guy is awesome. And if you didn't get a flyer, I'll have the flyers available for you. Oh, I do have applications for the Republican women. If you haven't signed up yet, it's $30 for the year. And so I've got flyers for that. Would love to have you join.
Thank you. Hold on. You want flyers? Yes, please. So you better say it like stuff.
Oh, he does.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Carol Howell will be next to talk about our upcoming events.
Oh, I get to raise it up for a change. How'd that happen? I'm going to jump right to what most of us have probably spent the day being concerned about, and that's the decision that came down out of the Supreme Court. Anybody in this room happy with what happened? Nobody. Nobody in this entire room. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I was first delighted when they first announced that the mandate had been overturned, and I'm dancing, I'm hooping, and the first comments were that the mandate had been overturned under the Commerce Act. Then, of course, they started to read the results, and we all found out that no, in fact, the whole thing stands. So it took me about an hour of pouting and getting very angry. And by 10:30, I was on the phone with my two doctors here in town and contacted both of them. I knew how they felt about Obamacare because I had talked to them previously. And said, all right, it's time you get on board and start supporting Team Nevada. Team Nevada is our national team that has come into Nevada. They're opening up an office right down the street from headquarters. It will be a 20-bank phone system to make phone calls, to organize walks. They'll have a super walk on the 7th of July and start walking our precincts. Now, many of you may ask, why this early are we putting so much effort into this election already? Up in Sparks and Reno, the Democrats have 32 events scheduled for this weekend. 32 fundraisers, walks, get out register the voters, a rah-rah team to get volunteers out. They're not waiting, and by God, we're not either. So we are going to start now. I'd like to hear from every one of you that you were able to contact your doctors, find out, if you don't already know, how they feel about Obamacare, and enlist their help in getting involved with Team Nevada and the Doctors Coalition. The Team Nevada wants a coalition of doctors that can get together when something like this happens again, or of this type, and come out in support or objecting to something that Mitt Romney says or Obama says, but they want to have these people ready and geared up to go immediately. So we need every doctor that we can get a hold of. How many of you got doctors here in town? How many of you know how they feel about Obamacare? Okay, any of them in favor of it? Wow, what a surprise. Okay, get a hold of him tomorrow, please. Friday's a bad day for doctors in Carson, isn't it? All right, I'll give you till Monday. Monday, please, call your doctors. Tell them it's time they get on board and become part of this coalition to support Mitt Romney, oppose Obamacare, and the entire Republican ticket. I need their names so that I can pass them on to Team Nevada, and a phone number that doesn't have to go through their receptionist and get on some spool somewhere. So an email, a contact information, get it to me at headquarters as soon as possible. We need to launch this fight immediately. How many of you can do that? Will commit to calling your doctors? Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. If you don't know the number for headquarters, it's 841-1800. You can call me there and leave a message if you have to. Our website, how many of you visit our website regularly, once in a while, occasionally? When your computer works? We're getting some terrific response off of our website. It is so up to date that there's already pictures and a whole story on the petition submission yesterday. So Karen is doing a fabulous job keeping it very, very up to date. Our candidates have their information on the website, and we will carry it through this election cycle. So make it a habit to go in and check out what's going on here locally on that website. Real easy, Carson City Republican Central Committee, GOP, all initials, .com. So it's CCRCC, So take a look at that. There's also items on there. We've got the opinion page. Do you have the library on there yet? We've got our library at headquarters. Karen passed out a flyer that gives you some fabulous books that we've got at headquarters that have been donated, and we're lending out for you. So it's a real good opportunity to get to read the book you didn't want to pay for. We're starting our plans for the parade on October 27th. Joyce, you want to do the report on the parade? Do you want her to do that now? Joyce. Yes, thank you.
I feel like we're doing Carson City karaoke, but I'm not going to do that because it might scare you. We had a meeting at my home on Tuesday of this week, the special events committee. We had 13 people attend, and we were talking about some ideas for the float. Our theme is Battleborn. And so what we decided was to take it to the Central Committee tonight to discuss it earlier today. 5 o'clock is that night, Jay? Anyway. And the suggestion was to put it out to our people tonight, our members tonight. So if you have any ideas for a float that would, the theme of which is Battleborn, we would like for you to send it to me at my email address before the 10th of July. That's our next meeting. And if you'd like to write down my email address, it's I'll give you a minute. C as in Charlie, A as in Anne, V as in Victor, A as in Anne, N as in Nancy, E as in Edward, V as in Victor, A as in Anne, at AOL.com. And we appreciate all submissions that you give to us. If you can give us a sketch, that would be wonderful. We just really appreciate your feedback on that. Thank you.
Thank you. In addition to that, our platform that the float will be on is 23 feet long, And then beyond the 23 feet, there's a little gooseneck platform that's a triangle that's probably 4 feet by 4 feet. So that's the platform that we had to work with for this float. It also is 8 feet wide, but it can be cranked out to be 12 feet wide. So if you need the extra width, we can do that. So keep that in mind when you're designing your float. Give us some great ideas for Battleborn is our theme this year. Something that we can portray that would represent Carson City and the Republican Party. Thank you. Is there any other discussion to come before this meeting? Seeing none, I'll turn the time over to Gary, who will introduce our speaker. While Gary's coming forward, there's a few seats around here for those of you standing in the back. If you'd like to have a seat. And there's some chairs in the back I can bring in if you'd like to sit up on the front row. I see 3 or 4 seats over here, one over there, one back there. So feel free to take a seat if you'd like.
Good evening, and thanks for attending tonight. We've heard from a lot of politicians the last few meetings, and some very good politicians, I should say. And they talked about the economy and jobs. But tonight we have a speaker from the private sector. And this gentleman truly understands what it takes to create jobs in the private sector. He's a former NASA rocket scientist. He was involved with the Gemini project, the Apollo moon mission project. After 14 years with NASA, he spent 10 years running various manufacturing and service companies. He is now a longtime resident of Story County. He is the founder of the Taormina Group. And one of the stated goals of his company, I'll let him talk more about his company, but one of the stated goals is to create thousands of jobs in the private sector. And I think that's a wonderful thing. We all need that. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Tom Taormina.
Thank you, and it's great to be among friendly faces. Being a conservative in Story County used to be a good thing, but the California interlopers started moving in about 10 years ago, and they want cul-de-sacs and Nordstroms and free meals for everyone, so I have to be very careful about what I say in my own community anymore. I pretty well had what I wanted to talk about all finished last night, and was thinking this would be a fairly easy day to do this presentation. And then, as has been mentioned, we had some events this morning that kind of put a curdle in my farina. And what came to mind to me was, all of a sudden, I saw this scene out of the movie Airplane. You remember Lloyd Bridges during the movie Airplane kept saying, "I think I picked the wrong day to quit drinking coffee." Well, what happened to me was I think I picked the wrong day to believe in the Supreme Court. But my friend Rod is with me this evening, and I were talking earlier. There was a pundit late this afternoon that really made sense to me. He said, if you think about it, the Chief Justice may actually be a genius for handing us the confirmation that the abomination is going to pass another tax if Obamacare stays in place. And we're going to be hearing more about that in the months and weeks ahead. So I choose to believe as an eternal optimist that they just handed us the November election. That's all I'm going to say about that. The title of the presentation is Houston, We Have a Problem. And there's a number of reasons for that. First of all, as was mentioned briefly, I spent the first 14 years of my career at Mission Control in Houston. I was a quality control engineer. I was on duty the first night. I heard Houston, we have a problem firsthand, and I was part of the first night recovery team. Until the movie actually came out in the 80s, everyone who asked me about it, we just kind of did what we were trained to do. We had a vision, we had a mission, we had values, we had purpose, and the first night that I was there, everything just kind of started coming together, and we didn't jump up and down and scream and say, "Oh my God, they're going to die." You know, we figured out a way to get them home. And unfortunately, when I joined the private sector in 1980, I thought all companies worked that way, where we had vision, mission, documented procedures, and everybody just kind of pulled together. Welcome to Fantasy Island. So after 10 years in the private sector, I opened my own consulting firm, and I've spent the last 20 years, as my wife says, as a missionary, trying to bring to the world the values that we had working, believe it or not, and I believe it's the last time it's happened, government and private sector all working on the same project with the same goals. So I won't give up. I'm only 67. I got a long way to go, and we are going to have another national effort before my cold, quivering hands are taken away from my computer to find another goal, and I'm calling it, it's time to win the human race instead of the space race. We did that once, and it worked. The second reason, as I mentioned briefly, is I was there that night. I heard Kennedy in '61 say we're going to the moon in this decade and returning men home safely. My 19th birthday, I packed my car, left the home in lovely Brooklyn, New York, drove to Houston by myself, put myself through the University of Houston, spent the next 14 years at Mission Control. I kind of thought that's what most people did of my generation. I never heard of student loans until my kids started going to college. I'm afraid I didn't know what that was. I worked 48 hours a week while I was taking a full course load. And to this group, I'm not bragging. This is just the way things are, right? Were. Right, okay. So all that said, I've written, part of what on my resume up there, I've written 11 books on quality mostly, quality management, but also business management and values, the value of people. My newest book is called Foreseeable Risk, because the last 10 years I've spent as an expert witness in product liability and organizational negligence. And it's a natural stretch for me as a quality engineer because the businesses of this state and this country have completely abdicated their responsibility to the consumer. And we're now making junk. We're making it overseas instead of here. And the people that run companies, the larger companies, are, pardon the expression, they're rapists. They're there to make their fortune, make their board of directors happy with them, and then get out. And they don't care what they leave in their wake. As a management consultant, I have quite a few clients here in Carson. I've worked with TMCC, WNCC, MAP, UNR. I've worked with all of the outreach groups. I was on the board of directors of the Northern Nevada Development Association. And I've just watched this thing crumble around us. And I'm hoping tonight, and I'm not here to sell anything, I'm hoping some of you know business people who are sick and tired of this nonsense about we can't produce it here in America profitably. We can. We can produce it profitably, and we can produce products that don't break. I could spend 2 hours on the cases I've worked on with product liability of appliances that the companies expect to kill 10 people every year with their appliances. Okay, we'll save that for another night. Let's move on with some much more uplifting stuff this evening. So that's who I am. I split my time between consulting and expert witness work and running around the state with my robes, with my wife chasing me saying, "Stop it already, you know. Nobody's listening to you, shut up." That I don't believe that. So what is this all about? I call what I'm doing current day Project Independence. We had Project Apollo. We got to the moon and back. We did the impossible in 8 years. And I think the next project we should undertake as a nation is to become independent of the countries that we depend on that don't like us, first of all, and we're subsidizing them, second of all. What's worse than that? They don't like us and we keep giving them money?
That's Democrats.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
That's Democrats.
Oh, yeah, I think so. So we live in this global community, but we don't have to live by global rules. We used to set the rules. Again, I was a naive kid when I went to work for NASA. I thought we set the rules. Let's go to the moon? Okay. We'll figure out how to do it. Today we're trying to invent more efficient solar panels. The folly in that is when we went to the moon, we had a mission that had us invent things that we needed to go to the moon. And the outcome of that is these things, these cell phones and computers and rockets. If we want to solve the energy problem, call me crazy, let's go to Mars. In going to Mars, we'll figure out how to create that energy source. Am I the only one? If I am, I'm the lone wolf in the distance. But I think not. The foundational concepts of this Project Independence thing that we're kicking around, a number of us old gray-haired guys are kicking around, is that there are historical models of success and historical models of failure. Why is it we choose to follow the models of failure? Socialism has never worked anywhere, anytime, ever.
That's right.
Ever. Democracy in its purest form can't work either, because that becomes anarchy. But a representative republic that our forefathers came up with, pretty darn good idea.
Amen.
It kind of works. Except when the pendulum keeps doing this. Ronald Reagan, Obama, where's the pendulum can't go any further in this direction, I don't think. So my question to you is, which model do we learn from? The Project Apollo was the combination of business and government on a single project with a single goal. As a quality control engineer, my job was to keep from killing 3 guys in space. Everything we did with the ground support hardware was so that it never failed. The reason I was on duty that night as a quality engineer was in case something broke, I had to go watch the people fix it and put seals back on the equipment. I never had anything to do because it didn't break. And why in the heck would I have to inspect what these guys are doing? Like, oh, there's 3 guys on the way to the moon. Let's screw up some solder connections here. That's the core I come from, and I hope there's still a few people out there left that have it. So, Project Apollo is the prototype, the archetype. I've spent the last 40 years, I've been blessed. I've worked with more than 600 companies. I can't tell you what to do right necessarily, but I can sure as heck tell you what not to do, what doesn't work. Out of all those companies, there may be 3 that I'd like to work for. Not a good number out of 600. So, that's where we're going. And what I hope this initiative that I'm working with will do is create a paradigm shift among our business leaders. I work with some of the bigger companies here in Carson. We talk about this all the time with the CEOs. They're busy with the economic issues of the day. They're busy with employee issues. But we've got to take a few minutes and shift the paradigm away from, well, we can make it cheaper in Taiwan. And then when we get to court, we can blame the Chinese and we can blame Walmart. Believe me, Walmart is immune from blame. Their supplier contracts are about half an inch thick. And I've won against Walmart, but Walmart always transferred the blame to some middle supplier. Again, we could tell stories. We absolutely, positively can manufacture products in this country, this state, this county that are robust, they are price affordable, and people will buy them over something that you have to throw away in 6 weeks. Amen. I know how to do it. I've been doing it for 40 years. I'd like to share that before I go on to the great spaceship in the sky. I figure I got about another 20 years to go, right, Doug? And so sometime in the next 20 years, I'd like to see this initiative started, and no more than I'd love to see it started here in northern Nevada. Because this is where I live, I picked this place to live, and I don't want to be anywhere else. I also don't want to be in any other political party. And I just want to reinforce once again, all of the existing technology we have, flat panel computers, high-def TV. Quick anecdote, on Project Apollo, the video came down from the spacecraft using what's called a flying spot scanner. It was the original color television invented in the 1940s. There was a color wheel in front of the camera with 3 colors that kept turning. And then on the ground, we had to design equipment that took that data and reconstructed it back into color that you saw. And it was so complex that I worked on that, was one of the projects I worked on. When you unplugged the spacecraft video, it took about 30 seconds for it to disappear because it would reconstruct it all by itself. So I think that's where the Apollo happening on a soundstage may have come from. Trust me, it didn't happen. Oops. History tells us that we can model success or we can model disaster. Wisdom is knowing which one to choose. The mission I have envisioned, and the other former NASA people, my business partner and I, started as electronic technicians at Philco Ford at NASA in 1966. And we built the green consoles you saw in mission control. He went off and started 2 companies and successfully and sold them, and I went off into consulting, and I'm the poor one and he's got his own corporate jet. I don't know what's wrong with that picture, but we still work together and we still learn from each other. But I'd like to create a think tank, and this is part of my message to you this evening, of like-minded people who want to learn the rest of the Apollo business model from me and then help us convey this to the businesses of Nevada. I love the colleges, I love the people that work there, but it ain't happening through academia. Because academia tells us what they want us to learn. I spent a year on the board of directors of NNDA, love them dearly, but all the outreach agencies know is to sit and wait for the phone to ring for new companies to move in from San Jose. We've got to worry about the companies that are here today. So I'm looking to create a think tank. I'm looking for anybody that has the passion that we have about our politics to have the passion to help the businesses of Northern Nevada get out of the malaise. So many of them are in a malaise of, I don't know what to do next. Well, I'm tired of waiting for Obama to do something. I'm tired of waiting for politicians to do something. I learned in Project Apollo that we lead by example. That we take a project, we make it work, and we say, look, world, wouldn't you like to do something like this? Again, I'm blessed. I was a senior consultant at Dell Computer for 3 years during the heyday of Dell Computer, not the current Dell Computer. We had vision, we had mission, we had values, and everybody worked in the same direction. And they were the most successful company in their field for years and years and years, until Michael Dell stepped aside and said, okay, you guys run it, and next thing you knew, they were selling computers in Walmart. It's the same computer, but the model was the Dell Direct model. I'm building a computer for you. And in 18 months, I'm going to build you another one. Right? Okay. So there are those who have figured all that stuff out. So here's the Apollo business model, and I want to go over this briefly, because this is the distillation of 40 years of experience in my work with 600 different companies, of all kinds of companies, from oil well companies to manufacturing to service companies. The foundational tenets are vision, mission, values, leadership, process, boundaries, metrics, consistency, and achievement. Some of them are self-explanatory. A couple aren't. One of them is boundaries. what we learned at Dell Computer was that if you signed up for the Michael Dell model, the Dell Direct model, as an employee, there was virtually anything you could do as long as you stayed within the boundaries of that model. Even as a consultant, I had to go to the all-day training on the model so I didn't stray off the path. And so boundaries are incredibly important. What I do with businesses now, the boundaries are what I call always and nevers. If you're going to work for this company, you will always do these things. And you will absolutely never do these things on the other side of the spectrum. So as long as you stay in the middle, we're all going to be good friends and we're all going to make money. Unfortunately, that's a difficult sell because, well, you know, he's been with me since I started. He's got family problems. Well, as much as I empathize, the first time you have one employee that isn't playing by the rules, it's over. Done. Finished. You might as well close the doors. Again, another entire discussion we can have. The other one is metrics. If you can't measure it, it ain't real. I don't care what it is. Everything we do in our lives is a process. Everything has a beginning, an end, and it's measurable. Okay? And as long as we measure all of these outcomes, as long as we measure, you know, I love to keep coming back to this because I can't do this in any other forum, but this one was, we had $5 trillion debt when Bush left office. Now we got $16 billion. Was that Bush's fault? It's numbers. It's, you know, a billion here, a trillion there. Sooner or later it adds up to real money. You know. So this is the foundation, and this is a very important statement at the bottom because in my consulting work, the thing that happens is that a company will bring me in and want me to do one or two of these things. And it's not a menu. It's not a Chinese restaurant menu where you can pick one from column A and one from column B. You got to do all of them. And anybody that works with us on Project Independence, on any of the other programs I work on, none of that is optional. And the last one is achievement, because at the end of the day, we don't create winners and losers. Everybody wins. So, again, we're trying to put together a guild of industry people. We're kind of at the early stages of it. There's a lot of stuff going around in the area. EDON is in a new incarnation. They're actually talking to NNBA now. They are helping with Entrepreneurship Nevada that Rod's going to speak about briefly at the end. So there's hope. I'm seeing some glimmers because my wife says I'm going to be sleeping in the garage if I keep this stuff up and join one more committee. I believe that there's a market out there. I know there's a market out there because I've heard the lament of business people that say, I just don't know what to do. Over the years, I've been able to figure out, I've been able to read books, I've been able to go to seminars. And I tell them, you know, I remember when I started my business in '89, I went to a seminar that said, if you want to start a business, charge everything on credit cards and mortgage your house. That's what they were selling back then. They said, don't worry about it. Your house is always going to go up in value. And credit cards, you know, that's no problem either. Must have been Democrats.
Were you a Democrat?
My father was. He was Archie Bunker. Trust me. Them damn Irish. That's another story we could talk about. The bottom line to this entire thing is I have seen it work, and I've seen it done well, where profitability is the inevitable result of delivering a service or a product of value. You can't not make money unless you're a complete financial idiot, or like me, give it away. If you're out to make a profit, you'll make a profit for that long, And then what? Because you're going to turn people off. You're going to sell them junk. If your goal is to deliver products and services of value, and I work for the defense side as well as I do for the plaintiff side in litigation. If I see a company that's really buttoned up and doing the right thing, they'll win. You know, it won't be the lady spilling coffee on her lap at McDonald's. If the company's really buttoned up, they win. Because frivolous lawsuits are just as bad as some of the things the companies have pulled. This was the model during Project Apollo. It's not meant to be read, it's just there as a visual. We had a plan on how we were going to get to the moon. My plan's a whole lot simpler. And again, this is the product of 40 years and work with 600 companies. And all it says is that when you're in a business or in any organization for that matter, even this organization, there's this never-ending loop of continual improvement. You can start almost anywhere you want in the loop, but the first one is usually to ask, what is it we're doing here? What is it we need? Asking everybody. Everybody in this room has a say about our political future. Everybody in a business knows better than the guy that owns it how to run the business. Trust me, I've seen it. So ask, assess what we're doing now, put numbers to it, put quantities to it. Then analyze what we're doing right and wrong. Act on the changes that you've come up with. Assure that the changes are effective. Achieve your goals, and then tomorrow morning start the whole thing all over again. So again, this is a very simple model. Don't try this at home. But it gives you some idea of the foundation of where I'm trying to get us to in the reinvention of business in America. At the end of the day, what I found in every company that I've worked with, the road to success is to make it cool to play by the rules. In other words, the first thing I do when I go into a company is I help identify the subculture that exists. There's people who want to be in charge that can't be in charge, and they're running their own little games throughout the company. None of you have seen that, right? Nah. Well, I've worked with a number of companies that have adopted this rule, make it cool to play by the rules. One of the biggest examples was Johnsonville Foods. Years ago, I didn't work with them, but they were one of the biggest examples. They make the bratwurst and the stuff you get. Well, it was a successful company, but they were always having productivity problems. They were always having quality problems. And finally, the owner said, what's going on? We make a good product. Why are we having all these problems? And the people finally said, you know, every afternoon you do the inspection, you do the taste testing of the product, and you sign off on it before we ship. How about if we do that? We know what it's supposed to taste like. Is that all that's bothering you? Sure, go ahead. And they kept, it's a continual improvement process. They kept building on it and building on it. The next step was, well, what's the next thing? Well, these vending machines are horrible. The food is terrible. So they had the employees go out and hire a new catering company. So it became cool to play by the rules. If you didn't like the catering company, don't blame the boss, blame your coworkers. And everybody was pulling in the same direction. And the people who didn't belong there found other careers somewhere else. Okay? So Project Independence says everyone wins. There's no winners, there's no losers, there's no victims. And again, if I hadn't worked with 600 companies and been doing this for 400 years. Good. Yeah. 40 years. I'd just be up here being a preacher. I've watched it work, I've seen it work, and I've helped it work. My wife was out of town when I volunteered for Entrepreneurship Nevada. She just got home yesterday. I'm under a little pressure. But I've seen in the area finally a new initiative to bring together all of the resources in the state. I think I mentioned earlier that there's 50-something outreach agencies, many of them trying to do the same thing, and none of them are doing it effectively. None of them. Sorry. Rod Lidwick is going to say a few words. He's the chair of Entrepreneurship Nevada. Tell us what you're doing.
Hello there. Anyway, just really quickly, I've been a serial entrepreneur since the 80s. I've built a number of companies, sold them, built other ones. The last company I had, I sold to a company here in Reno in 2000. And part of the deal was I had to work for them for 2 years, and I didn't want to fly in every week and fly home, and so I moved here and been here ever since. And I plan to make this my home. So, and I have. And so looking around at the economy and being an entrepreneur, I started a couple of companies while I was here. And I said, we're really kind of dysfunctional in the entrepreneurial area. We need to get all the groups together that work on entrepreneurial ventures so we can kind of focus our efforts and help start new businesses, because it's my belief if we can start enough new businesses here that bring money in from outside the area. So I'm not talking about dry cleaners or things like that where we just trade dollars back and forth, although that's okay. But if we can create companies that bring money in from outside the area, we can start rebuilding this economy on new businesses. So I started that in December. I was on the board of a company called Entrepreneurship Nevada. We retasked that to be this overarching company to corral all the cats, herd the cats, if you will, and bring all the entrepreneurial groups together. And it worked out real well. And in just 6 months, we've got 18 members on our board. EDON is on there, Small Business Development Center, UNR, just all the people that you know and love that would be working in those communities. And 2 meetings ago, Tom came as a guest, and we hadn't met before. And Tom asked, what are you guys doing about a mission and vision and all that kind of thing? I said, well, we have a draft of one. He said, well, I could probably help you with that. And before he said, help you with that, I said, you're hired. And at our standard rate, which is free, because we're a nonprofit and we don't raise money, we just operate, we're all volunteers. So anyway, and Tom's just done an excellent job of guiding us through that process, and we probably will wrap it up the next meeting. I think get pretty close to that. So anyway, that's what we're doing in Entrepreneurship Nevada. It's really exciting. Right now we're in the greater Reno area. We want to expand that further because I love entrepreneurship. I'm working with some young entrepreneurs right now, helping them start their companies, define their products, get in the marketplace. It's really fascinating. And to pick up on what Tom said about building products here in the U.S., when I had my last corporate job, my quality manager left to go back to the East Coast to take a job in a manufacturing company. And it turned out they were manufacturing television sets, and I said, hey, Lee, what's going on? Yeah, he said, why don't you come out and visit? I'll show you what we're doing. These people were making, I think it was in North Carolina, 13,000 color television sets per day in our country, okay? And that place, and it wasn't a Japanese company either, and that place was humming. I mean, it went like this. And you can imagine 13,000 color television sets a day. Where do you even put them at the end of the day? Okay.
Were they manufacturing the parts, or was it an assembly operation from
Well, they would manufacture printed circuit boards, have those brought in, and do the assembly of these plants. I forget how many production lines they had, but at the end of the day, what they had was all these television sets went in boxes, and they had a forklift that just would pick these up and put them in trucks. So there wasn't even a warehouse, and this is fascinating. So you're right, we can do it. Anyway, anybody have any questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
What industries are you finding entrepreneurship at this point in Reno?
It's you get the strangest things. We have one woman who decided she was a quilter, and she made these fantastic quilts and wanted to start a business making quilts. And we said, well, we have flags because all these people play these war games and stuff. So she took, she was kind of a solution looking for a problem, and ended up now having a pretty neat business. Another company I'm working with has a brand new product that we're just getting absolutely fantastic success with, which shows the status of a bathroom stall door, whether it's occupied or not. So, you know, you guys ever go through the airports like this? You know, see, you know, if anybody's in there or not. So anyway, so there's that. There's someone else that's got a mounting system for mounting pictures and stuff on walls. I mean, it's kind of all over the map.
It's entrepreneurial.
It is, yeah. Yes, sir.
Does your company use any government money to promote these entrepreneurs?
No, we don't fund it or anything. We just have the resources to help people, and basically they're doing it on their own. But I am talking with the state about what we want to do is we want to put we want to get some kind of funding to inject in these companies. It has to be non-traditional. It can't be banks and things like that because it just doesn't work. And so we're working on working with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. We're very closely tied in with EDON. And so we're working to try to get some non-conventional funding available.
But right now, our biggest job is defining what entrepreneurship is, just exactly the question you asked. I'm a 21-year startup company, you know. What is an entrepreneur? It's someone who takes risks.
That's right. And the best definition I've heard of an entrepreneur is it's the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources under control. Okay? So that means that's a hell of an idea. I'm going to do it anyway.
That's exactly right.
Anybody else?
Anybody have any questions of me? Yes, sir. We got a nuclear scientist and a rocket scientist in the room.
Well, I just wanted to, I think your presentation has been marvelous, and I think everybody needs to pay attention to what your message you get out to the rest of the world. I just want to kind of realize that this gentleman worked for NASA, and NASA was really something. I was fortunate enough in 1973 to take a tour of Mission Control headquarters. Inside, I mean, we got to go in and look around. It was a special tour. And it was marvelous. And you know, I was an undergraduate at the time in college. And, I also want to say that one of my friends when I was an undergraduate was an astronomer in an 8-inch telescope in his backyard. And at that time, you know, there was no internet, there was none of this stuff. But if you wanted to, you could write to NASA for the Apollo missions, and they would send you a list of coordinates, literally almost minute by minute in space, where the spacecraft was. And he happened to be observing the spacecraft when it blew up. Blew the side right out. So this is just, you know, wow, it's bringing back all these memories, and I'm sure you were not dreaming of that night, that's for sure. And we appreciate the work you did, and unfortunately, well, NASA's fallen on tough side. And the last thing I want to say is that NASA's probably the only government agency that generated more money in the private sector than the government spent on the program. In fact, everything I've been able to read, it was 10 times more. It was some enormous number. This is the early time in history the government actually made things work.
And the follow-up to that is, as I said at the very beginning, it was the last time that the government and private industry worked together successfully. And the reason was NASA was nothing but contract monitors and principal scientists and astronauts. Everything was in the private sector. I actually worked for Philco Ford Aerospace, and we owned all of the intellectual property that we invented for the space program. I was part of the group that invented the first desktop terminal, you know, and it was because we needed it in Building 30, not because I wanted to have computer games take over the world. Yes, sir.
I'll ask you one thing. We've seen how things have gone down. What's our hope with spaceflight? Because I've been looking at SpaceX and Rutan's company and similar places. Do we have hope there?
If the government will get out of our way, we can do it better in the private sector. I actually had a client in Palmdale 10 years ago that actually invented a reusable space vehicle that took off and landed at airports. And the NASA came to him and said, we want that design from you. And he said, not in this lifetime. He said, I'm going to produce it myself. And they said, okay, well, then you're going to invent the FAA rules for how spacecraft take off and land from airports. And until that's incorporated in the FAA procedures, you can't fly your machine. I understand that just happened a couple of months ago where they've agreed to it. This guy's out of business. He's gone. I can't even find him anymore.
Even from a private airport, you can fly?
No, nowhere. It's all under FAA rules.
Why do you fly in the United States? Why don't you get away from the FAA?
You know, I keep hearing that, but I was born here and I want to stay here.
Yeah, but when you tell me that...
Yeah, I know.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Well, I understand, but I keep wanting to live here and I keep wanting to make it happen.
Fight regulations like that.
Sure you can. I did. I fight Story County all the time. Yes, ma'am.
Your entrepreneur, you're in Reno. How would you like it developed here in Carson? Because maybe we don't want to run to Reno all the time.
Yeah, why don't I give you my card and we can talk about that, you know, because we really haven't, we haven't figured that out. I just saw there were, I mean, we had 3 business plan competitions running at the same time. We had 3 companies teaching you how to become an entrepreneur on the same weekend. I said, you know, this is ridiculous. We're too small to do that. And so the whole object was to just get everybody working together in the same direction.
Right.
And so, and if we can help you folks here do the same thing, be happy to figure out how to do that.
But it's all of this is in its infancy. So you can be part of making it happen. That's what I challenge the people at Entrepreneurship Nevada to do. What do you guys want to do? What do we hope to accomplish? Not what can you sell to other businesses. We have mixers all the time. You can go hand out your business card. This is what can we do to help the businesses of Nevada? Yes, ma'am.
This is probably unfair, but do you have any comment about our proposed downtown development?
Well, I'm living it with the Virginia City group, and I think it's a parallel effort that needs to be done. I can't wait for the freeway to open, but you know, and I never go through Virginia City in the middle of the day, so you have to if you live here, you have to pick your battles, and hopefully we can win both of them. I mean, when I moved to Story County, 50% of our revenue came from the bordellos, you know. So diversification, I think, is the answer.
Do you see a value to it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I want to thank these brethren for
brochures. We have brochures and business cards. Please feel free to contact me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you. We've had an enjoyable meeting. I appreciate all of you being here tonight. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as well. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Take a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.